You have to picture the moment. It's Las Vegas, 1969, the International Hotel. The biggest showroom in the city and the biggest star in the world is about to walk on stage for the first time in almost a decade. This wasn't just another show. This was a comeback. This was a resurrection. The man was Elvis Presley, but he wasn't the boy who shook his hips on the Ed Sullivan Show. The years had been strange. He'd been in the army, he'd made a string of movies. Some were good, most were not. They were silly and safe, they paid well, but they drained the life out of him. The music had become formulaic. The fire was gone, people were starting to forget the raw power he once had. The Beatles had happened, Hendrix had happened, the world had changed. Then came the '68 comeback special. It was a revelation. Dressed in black leather, he looked dangerous again. He sang with a hunger that people hadn't seen in years. He wasn't acting. He was performing. He reminded everyone, and maybe himself, who he was. He was the king. And now, he had to prove it all over again, night after night, in the strange, artificial glare of Las Vegas. Vegas was a town that buried artists. It was where you went to die, musically, to become a nostalgia act, to sing your old hits for people eating steak dinners. Elvis knew this. The pressure was immense. He had a new band, a killer group of musicians he called the TCB Band. He had a full orchestra behind him. He had a new sound, bigger and bolder than ever before. But everything rested on that first moment. The lights go down, the room is electric with anticipation. You hear the familiar booming orchestral theme from the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's dramatic. It's over the top, it's pure Vegas. The theme builds and builds, a wave of sound promising the arrival of something monumental. And then, it cuts. Silence. A split second of total quiet. Then, a single electric guitar cuts through the dark. A sharp, funky, instantly recognizable riff. It's not one of his hits, it's not Hound Dog. It's not Love Me Tender. It's something else. It's gritty. It has a groove. It's a statement. Then the drums crash in, the bass starts to walk, and the horns punch you right in the chest. The stage explodes with light, and there he is. White jumpsuit, guitar slung low. He steps to the microphone. What song is it? And more importantly, why that song? Why choose this specific piece of music to announce his return to the world? To understand the choice, you have to understand where the song came from. It wasn't his. It was a piece of American history. It was a song that had been traveling down the river of music for nearly half a century before he ever touched it. Its story begins in the 1920s with one of the first and greatest blues singers, Ma Rainey. She was called the Mother of the Blues. Her version, recorded in 1924, was a slow, mournful lament. It was a classic blues story. A woman is talking to her man, her rider. He's done her wrong, and now he's gone. She's watching him ride away. The lyrics are simple, direct, and full of pain. See, rider, see what you have done. In the language of the early blues, a rider, or an easy rider, was a lover, often one who lived off a woman's earnings. The phrase itself had a certain grit to it. It wasn't a romantic term, it was a term from the real hard world. So from its very beginning, the song had roots in something authentic and raw. It wasn't a pop tune, it was the blues, it was the sound of real life. After Ma Rainey, the song started to wander. That's what folk songs and blues standards do. They get passed around like a story. Each person who sings it adds a little of themselves, changes a word, shifts the melody. It was recorded by countless others in the decades that followed. Big Bill Brownlee did a version. So did Leadbelly. These were acoustic versions, raw and direct, sung by men who were the foundation of American music. The song became part of the fabric, a standard that everyone knew. But the version that likely got Elvis's attention came much later. In 1957, an R&B singer named Chuck Willis recorded it. Willis gave the song a new life. He put a beat to it, he electrified it, he added a strolling, relaxed rhythm that was impossible not to move to. It was still the blues, but it was danceable. It was cool. Chuck Willis had a hit with it. This was the world Elvis came from. He grew up listening to the R&B stations, soaking in the music of artists like Chuck Willis. This song was in his DNA long before he ever thought of performing it. Then, in the 1960s, the song crossed the ocean. The British invasion bands, obsessed with American blues and R&B, picked it up. The Animals, famous for their version of House of the Rising Sun, recorded a raw, energetic take on it. Their version brought it to a new, younger, white audience. The song had proven it could change its clothes. It could be a slow blues lament, a strolling R&B number, or a driving rock and roll tune. It was incredibly versatile, it was timeless, so when Elvis was standing on that stage in 1969 thinking about what to open with, this song was a perfect choice for several reasons. First, it was about authenticity. After years of making silly movies and singing songs about clam bakes and puppet shows, he needed to reconnect with his roots. He needed to remind people that before he was a movie star, he was a guy from Memphis who loved the blues. Opening with a classic 12-bar blues standard was a powerful way to do that. It wasn't one of his own commercial hits, it was a nod to his heroes, to the music that inspired him. It was him saying, I am a serious musician. I know my history. This is where I come from. It immediately gave him credibility that had been eroded by years in Hollywood. It washed away the schmaltz. Second, it was about power. While the song's origins were in a mournful blues, Elvis and his TCB band didn't play it that way. They turned it into an explosion. James Burton's guitar riff was funky and aggressive. Ronnie Tutt's drumming was like a freight train. The horns were a blast of pure energy. It was a statement of musical force. He took this old song and made it sound completely modern and incredibly powerful. He wasn't looking backward with nostalgia, he was taking the past and rocketing it into the present. He was showing off his new band and his new sound. The message was clear, this is not going to be a quiet show. This is not your parents' Elvis, this is a rock and roll band at the height of its power. Third, it subverted expectations. If he had opened with Jailhouse Rock or Don't Be Cruel, the crowd would have cheered, but it would have been predictable. It would have been an oldies act. By choosing a song that was a little more obscure to the general public, but still a classic, he made the audience lean in. He was in control, he was the one setting the tone. He wasn't just there to play the hits people expected. He was there to put on a show, his show, on his terms. It was a flex. It showed confidence. He was basically saying, we're going to start here with this killer groove. Just wait until we get to the songs you know. Fourth, there's a theatrical element to it. An opening number has a specific job to do. It needs to grab the audience by the throat from the first second. And his arrangement did exactly that. The slow, epic orchestral build-up, the sudden silence, and then the punch of that guitar riff is pure showmanship. It's a perfect curtain raiser. It's not too long. It doesn't tell a complicated story. It just establishes a mood and a groove immediately. It gets everyone's blood pumping. It's the perfect launch pad for the rest of the concert. Within the first minute, the entire room is locked in, feet tapping, heads nodding. The band is warmed up, the audience is hooked, job done. And finally, think about the lyrics from his perspective. See, Rider, see what you have done. On the surface, it's a song about a lover leaving. But sung by Elvis, at that moment, it takes on a different meaning. It's not a lament. It's a taunt. It's filled with swagger. He sings it with a smirk. It's a song about someone else's trouble, but he's in complete command. He's not the victim in the story, he's the narrator, cool and detached. There's an irony to him, the biggest star in the world opening his triumphant return with a song about someone getting left. It's a little bit of that old Elvis danger, that playful arrogance that made him so compelling in the first place. He wasn't just singing the words, he was performing an idea. The idea of taking something old and broken and making it new and powerful. That was the story of his own career at that moment. He was taking the Elvis of the 50s, who had been left behind by the culture, and reintroducing him as a vital contemporary force. The song was a metaphor for his own reinvention. He could have chosen any number of his own massive hits. But that would have been the easy way. That would have been an admission that his best days were behind him. Instead, he chose a song that belonged to everyone and no one. A piece of American bedrock. He wasn't just covering it, he was claiming it. He was weaving his own story into its long history. It was a bridge. It connected the young man who fell in love with R&B in Memphis to the superstar taking over Las Vegas. It connected the raw blues of the 1920s to the high-energy rock and roll of the 1970s. And it connected the man on stage to his audience in the most direct way possible with a killer groove and an undeniable sense of power. It wasn't a request for their attention, it was a demand. For the rest of his career, through thousands of shows, this song would be his opening statement. The orchestral theme, the silence, the riff, it became a ritual. It was the signal that the king had entered the building and was ready to hold court. It was the perfect choice because it wasn't just a song, it was a declaration of identity. It was raw, it was powerful, it was authentic, and it was pure rock and roll. The song, of course, was See, Rider.